We need more. I would like to have a good bus.
Let's go.
I would like to take everything.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and call the board meeting for the Sacramento Regional Transit for Monday, April 10th, 2017, with this small but dedicated group of board members. We do have a few others that will be showing up. So Cindy, carry it away here.
Director Budge is marked as being absent. Director Hanson?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hume is marked as being absent. Director Jennings is marked as being absent. Director Kennedy? Director Miller?
Here.
Director Natoli? Director Chenier and Director Cerna are marked as being absent, and Chair Moran.
Here.
With that, we do not have a quorum.
Okay, but
However,
we
we'll
promise we
proceed.
will at some point here. So, okay, with that, would everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting of the Sacramento Regional Transit District will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, and will be streamed live on RT's website. Tonight's meeting will air on Wednesday, April 12th at 6 p.m. and replayed on Thursday, April 13th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14 and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. It is also closed caption. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker card located at the rear of the room and provide it to me or Adam. Please speak into the microphone and state your name for the record. We would appreciate everyone turning off their cell phones. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. And one of the reasons we have a paucity of attendance here is the spring break has captured a number of our board members, I think, enjoying vacations and whatnot. So with that, Cindy, first item.
Public addresses the board on matters not on the agenda.
Okay, thank you. So to begin with, Mike Barnbaum. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening. Thank you for having us tonight before your board. Just an announcement on Wednesday at 6 p.m. In the Elk Grove City Council chambers located at 8400 Laguna Palms Way. The comprehensive operational analysis for E-Tran is set to go before the council and forecast for adoption. The analysis highlights what a future E-Tran system will look like both locally within Elk Grove and its connectivity to transit systems throughout the region, including but not limited to South County Transit and Sacramento Regional Transit. The forecast in the document calls for changes to their fare structure in January 2018 and July of 2020. Staff is presenting to the council on Wednesday evening a base scenario, a 7.6% service reduction scenario, and a 10% service reduction scenario. This comprehensive operational analysis has taken many months to perfect and detail, incorporating comments from the general public, key stakeholders, and many of the council members that will, both past and present, that will be making a key decision on Wednesday evening. If you are anyone, again, are interested in going, it is this Wednesday, 6 p.m., 8400 Laguna Palms Way. Staff has been in contact with us to consider, but has not finalized the decision as of this moment, of having an E-Tran bus or shuttle available when the item concludes and the council votes on it, to take folks back from the council chambers to the CRC station, the current hub of the E-Tran service. We say the current hub because the forecast in the COA calls for a grid system and commuter service following many of the local routes that are being presented in the grid network that you will see on Wednesday evening.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update there, Mike. And just to note that the arrival of Director Kennedy's powerful voting block has put us over.
Unfortunately, Don Natoli's right behind me.
Okay. Okay, next, Jeffrey Tartagia.
Quite a long train.
Good evening, Jeffrey.
Andy, and as I see Don Natoli coming through the door, through here, to add on to the Elk Grove, two things for regional transit to be, shall we say, I'm hoping they are well informed of, is dealing with the I and J Street proposal of a single route of P and Q. Also going through is where they are looking at realigning the Elk Grove coming through, and there will be likely that there will be need to be for the reverse a better, should we say, signifying of where you pick up E-Trans than the little signs that are currently available to allow you to know where you pick up E-Tran to go the other direction. But what I was more interested in talking about is I'm hoping that RT is ready for Bike Month and is also ready for, having where I hope the, should we say, light rail cars that have the advertisement will be utilized on the Gold Line to signify on that week of the route that's going by for the first stage, to signify some of the encouragement and some of the changes that RT has been provided, and also dealing with the ladies coming from Elk Grove, that perhaps those things would be well coordinated and much helpful. Had a little incident that I brought to the attention regarding dealing with the, once again, arena events, and where I stress again is you need to take into account your bus ridership as well as your light rail service. And you're not doing due diligence of handling that yet right now, as well as the internal communication before RT about what in the world is going on and happening. I also attended the transit, should we say, meeting of SACOG, and it's interesting to see, and I will remark that probably this will only be understandable to Roger, but I still would bring to your attention that you never tested the quad core processor for your Connect card. And I think as you go to the process of best of fares, you are going to see that return of 2.5 years ago of the reboot issue that occurred then, because there is a coding issue involved with there. And after several years of training, I'm not certain that the chargeback has been dealt with for regional transit. I hope the chargeback is dealing with the other agencies has been handled and corrected with a correct process. I say I have 30 seconds left, so I will also offer and say to you is this, in the budget that's being proposed through here, I remark that you have a number of reasons where you're using bus shuttle services. Last year it took place a lot for dealing with the I-80 when the elevator was down. Last December, you had it used extensively for, should we say, when you had the incident occur up in Roseville. And the cost element of that, I have not seen ever disclosed. Last thing I will say to you is, I understand 14,000 tickets were offered in March Madness. I'm wondering how many tickets are going out for the ANJAM event and where that has been appropriately recognized and how that's been costed out.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. I have no more requests to speak on business from the floor, so we'll conclude that item and move on.
Consent calendar, items 1 through 9. You
Okay,
do not have any speakers.
Any requests to pull for discussion or separate vote?
Mr. Chair, I did have a question. We leave it on the consent calendar, but whenever you,
Okay,
the others, I want to talk about item 5, please.
item 5. So why don't we go ahead and take care of that, Cindy, if you want to read that item?
Okay. Item number 5, resolution ratifying the release of an invitation to bid and conditionally delegating authority to the general manager CEO to award contract for the 1225 R Street interior remodel to RBH Construction, Inc. And Neil Nance is here to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. I don't know that it's much a question. I guess just an observation that I guess when you test the marketplace and you find out that you only have one bidder and that they're nearly double what, not quite, but about 40% more than what you anticipated. I think that we need to recognize the market conditions when we do this. And again, it's not like this was over, like the bid was over, because we're now modifying, I guess, to understand this. But we are going to it just seemed like we missed the mark. If we were estimating $82,000, and the one and only bid came in at $145,000, and that didn't include the 6 additives that those weren't detailed here, so I don't know what it is we would like to have done but couldn't do because we couldn't even get the base amount of work done for almost double what we estimated. So again, not to draw attention to anybody misestimated. It just seems to me though, if the marketplace is that hot, and certainly we can save money by not renting longer than we currently are on a month to month, makes sense to me. I support this, but I guess and maybe you have a comment to it as to what was learned by this. This is a pretty small amount, but still it was pretty significant difference between what we estimated and what the one bid came in.
Yes, sir. Our team went through that same scenario that you just described, trying to figure out why we were so under budget. Again, I think you hit it. The marketplace has changed.
Yeah.
We had a couple of subs that got really busy, and they escalated the prices on us.
Okay. And so, again, maybe timing doesn't fit in, that we couldn't find different times of the year when it may be. And I just think currently with construction and the activity, it was going to be like this for some years to come. But
Yes, sir.
nonetheless, it sounds like your team went through the exercise. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'm prepared to move this item in the consent calendars.
Great, thanks, Don. So motion for consent here.
Second.
Okay.
Don moved.
Yeah, move. Yeah, move.
Okay,
Yeah.
so moved by Director Natoli, seconded by Director Miller. Please, are all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 86 votes.
All right, thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, number 10, the general manager's report.
All right, Henry?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, and the public. First, I would like to update board and the public about the successful approval of SB1. Last Thursday, state legislation, after many years, approved a landmark transportation bill, SB1. The bill will provide approximately $5.2 billion for roads and transit, with approximately 85% of funding for roads and 15% for transit. It's approximately, the details yet to come out, but based on the current information, it's about 85 versus 15. This will provide RT about $10 million compared to RT's $265 million operating on the capital budget annually. As indicated in our strategic vision presentation in February, we will use this new funding to build up RT's contingency reserve and reduce $29 million line for credit, as well as to replace permanently lost federal funding CMAQ fund for the new operation of Light Rail Blue Line extension. And we spend about $2.5 million annually in the last 2 or 3 years for that section, but now that fund is gone next year. So we have to use this money to replace that, and also to offset lower than expected state cap and trade fund due to the poor performance of the program. The cap and trade fund was supposed to generate $600 million auction revenue recently, but only $8.2 million was received. So it's just 2% of the fund actually realized than what expected. The main reason the SB1 gave the transit so little of the percentage is because they said the cap and the trade fund is supposed to generate over $1 billion for transit, but actually in this case it's going to be decimal amount we're going to generate. So that is the history behind that. So since the new state transportation funding is so limited, and we will have to diligently pursue new local funding sources. We already start educational effort to raise awareness of alarming local transit funding shortage and the exciting initiatives that could be undertaken with additional local fund. So that's a brief update on SB1. In the meantime, I would like to share another exciting news about our revenue bond rating. Last Wednesday, just one day before the SB1 was passed, we received an upward change on our revenue bond rating from a negative outlook to a stable outlook with Moody's, after staff worked with the rating agencies very hard in last year. The reasons Moody's raised artist bond rating from a negative watch to a stable outlook include: first, they're happy with the significant transformation RT has made in last year and a positive turnaround in our financial condition. And they are very happy with RT's strong political support and strong management and board governance, including, quote by what they said is cutting cost without cutting service, implementing fair increase, defacing debt to increase debt service coverage, and build up artists' long-term financial stability. I would like to commend artist senior accountant Jamie Adamant. Can you step up a little bit? Who has gone above and beyond in artist's relentless pursuit of excellence. She has been the catalyst in ensuring that artists' TCRP funds and other funding sources were used to maximize the debt service paydown for the rating revenue bonds, and working with Moody's to put together all the required information to convey numerous positive steps that RT has taken to move RT towards its financial recovery. There were lots of detailed preparations behind that to convince Moody's to change that. They actually only used 7 months data to make this change. Normally, they have to use about 1 year worth data. But we pushed them very hard, and we fed them many great stuff. And Jamie was behind that. So,
Thank you, Jamie.
So thank you, Jamie. Certainly, I would also like to congratulate Brent Berlinger, our new officially Vice President of Finance, CFO, for his strong leadership and dedication. And Brent finally accepted the offer as our took the acting out. A very brief update on the status of our strategic vision and the route optimization progress. We have been working very hard right after February 27th strategic vision workshop by sharing our vision and the route optimization efforts with the community. We have made various efforts moving forward, beginning with regional dialogues, including meeting with numerous regional stakeholders and organizations in the last 4 months and are scheduling many more presentations at community meetings over the next couple of months, including neighborhood groups, business improvement districts, chambers, school districts. Actually, yesterday we had 4 school districts representatives from this whole region meeting with us. And elected official meetings and other meetings. We hope to get 20 to 30 presentations scheduled over the next 2 months. We have also launched a community survey to get as much input as possible to help us shape our service and understand the community's priorities for world-class transit system. One of the reasons we push so hard to have these meetings is the Measure B pool will start in June timeframe, and the valuation will conduct a pool about transportation too. And I believe STA board will largely based on the pool results to determine future measures. This work will also lead us into the route optimization. We are considering various options to provide improved frequencies and coverage, including enhancing neighborhood circulation buses that will serve various community activity centers and connect to regional SAC-RT service, such as nearby light rail stations. We want to leverage innovative approaches like bike or ride-share program services to bridge the first and last mile and build a seamless mobility network that will include electric and autonomous vehicles. And the director, several directors expressed, autonomous vehicles and electric buses in the future. A lot of exciting news is last month, ATO Local 215 board signed a letter of agreement with RT to create additional demonstration project to provide for expanded use of transit agent classification to add about 30 to 40 more transit agents in addition to existing 25 transit agents, while reducing the contracted security guard services. These new agents will perform field inspections and related duties to further enhance security on trains and stations. The demonstration project is slated to run for the duration of the recent extended ATU collective bargaining agreement, which is a 2-year agreement. The new transit agents employed during the demonstration period will receive the same wage and benefit as current transit agents, except they will be participating in a defined contribution retirement plan, a 3% employer contribution 457 plan, a 3% RT contribute 457 plan, rather than a more costly traditional defined pension plan currently provide to existing employees, which is 26% of employer contribution pension plan. So it's a decrease from 26% to 3%. These employees will assume duties previously performed by contract security guards. This is a significant step because this will help to reduce the labor cost in a positive way. And I would like to commend Mr. Rolf Nils, he's not here, I believe, and his team for a strong, and Christian, hey, is the vice president. I would like to commend you guys for your strong leadership and partnership. Thank you. The change from the guard program to transit agent program will not just save RT's cost, but also is a part of our tireless effort to seek new business model for better customer experience. I'd like to specifically thank G4S for a satisfactory performance and excellent partnership in the past. They played an important role in RT's journey to excellence. Well, today we will officially release our FY fiscal year 2018 budget for 60 days public review. As you might notice that instead of a reasonable budget increase year by year due to the CPI and union wage increase defined in union agreements, the union wage increase is between 2.5% to 5%. Our proposed fiscal year 18 operating budget is actually 1% less than last year's budget due to our effort try to pursue the operational efficiency and business process optimization. We plan to achieve this milestone without changes of our service and fair structure. This is the key. Without change of the service level and without change of our fare, and we try to reduce our budget. Furthermore, we plan to use some actual fare revenue we are receiving currently to provide some free ride days for students and seniors 62 years or older. As a thank you to the community, we're going to bring this proposal to board for board discussion and potentially approval in next month or so. Another major reason that we can achieve a budget reduction without affecting service is our extraordinary partnership and productivity improvement initiatives we are implementing with our vendors and contractors. Earlier I talked about G4S. We changed the service from contract service to internal service, which will save approximately $200,000 just by making that move. And for this, I want specifically to acknowledge one of these outstanding partners is Paratransit Inc., which provides SAC artists ADA paratransit service. With innovative funding reallocation, better scheduling, and service enhancement initiatives, Paratransit Inc. and RT has reached a tentative agreement. Here will save Paratransit Inc. will save RT approximately $3.5 million operating cost while continuing to provide quality service to the Sacramento ADA community at the same or even higher service level. I want to thank Paratransit Inc.'s new CEO, Ms. Tiffany Fink, for her great leadership. Could you please stand up, let people see you? Thank you. Thank all PI Board of Directors, especially representatives from RT and PI Board. Director Hyun and Director Hansen, thank you. And the prior member, Director Natani, thank all of your leadership. And thank you for your guidance. Thank RT's Mobility Advisory Council and all RT board members and community leaders, as well as ADA community for a strong support. And also a big shout out to our dedicated RT team for working so effectively with our PI counterpart to make this happen so smoothly with extensive professional preparation and negotiation. Some of these team members are Laura Ham. Laura, can you stand up? Let people see you. Brent Berlinger, Doug Vandeker, Janice Labredo, who is our paratransit service director, David Goldman, who is our budget director, and many others. Thank you all. This concludes my GM report. I would love to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Henry. Thanks for all that good news, and I think Brent thanks you for taking away some of the budget thunder he was going to present here. So with that, we do have a request to speak on this item. Mike Barnbaum.
Thank you. So we want to celebrate the passage of SB 1. It should be enrolled shortly. Thanks to everyone through the committee process and on the floor and whatever had to be done to wrangle those last 3 votes in the Assembly to get the Senate bill approved and over to the governor's office. Every bit helps. We recognize and join RT in recognizing that while this is a good step forward, it is surely not nearly enough just for the Sacramento region at all. We know in reading a lot of publications since the passage of SB 1 that RT would like to at least try to go out to get a third of a cent. We think RT and the county-wide area and the region need even more than that. We're even going to push for half a cent to a full cent. But we know that the success of this cannot be nearly to what we think it would be without this. This is SCA 6 by Senator Scott Weiner. Weiner. What his bill would do would lower the voter threshold necessary to pass such local and regional measures from 67% plus 1 to 55% plus 1. This follows the success of then state legislators Jack O'Connell and Tom Torlakson, who made this successful for school bonds. If it can be successful for school bonds, why can it not be successful for transportation, including but not limited to transit? We have not seen that this bill has had a hearing scheduled yet, but we recognize that, as you recognized earlier in the meeting, Mr. Chairman, about the number of absences during spring break, it is also the legislature's spring break this week. And there is no session or anything going on downtown in the Capitol. They will be back Monday. And the big thing coming back will be the May revised and all the budget deliberations and passage of the budget by June 15th to the governor's office, or the legislature doesn't get paid. We hope, and I'll conclude here, that there will be some hearings on our bill between now and June 30th, and something will get to the voters sometime next year. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Mike. And I was reminded that we do have a few other pieces to our general manager's report, so I don't know if Brent or Devra, who's up first.
Just one comment.
Go ahead, Director Hansen.
Oh, I just wanted to, before we lost a moment, echo Henry's comments about Tiffany and paratransit. Tiffany was just appointed at my first board meeting on behalf of RT to be the permanent CEO, and she's wasted no time making improvements at the organization, really doing a lot of good work, and I wanted to recognize her personally for that work. I know Mr. Hume isn't here. He's the other RT board member serving there, but we're very proud of, Henry got to announce some good news for this board, but I think overall the direction of both organizations is very strong, and with strong new leaders on both sides. So Henry, thank you for working collaboratively with paratransit, and I hope you and Tiffany continue to have a very fruitful and positive relationship.
Great. Thanks, Steve. Thanks for all your work on that board. Good evening, Deborah.
Good evening, Chair Moran and members of the RT board. Tonight I'm going to present a news clip that really sums up how great ridership was during the NCAA tournament weekend and St. Patrick's Day. RT had fantastic media coverage before and during the events. This clip was actually the lead story at 5 p.m. on Friday, March 17th on ABC 10.
Sacramento has March Madness. Anyone heading to the Golden One Center with a ticket today gets a free ride on RT. And RT says on free ride days, 20% of attendees choose light rail. But what kind of impression is RT making on people visiting our city? ABC 10's Gabrielle Carroll jumped on the train to find out.
Going to admit this is my first time riding RT, so I'm going to do it the high-tech way. I'm going to buy the tickets on the app. Unfortunately, I will not be seeing the games today, so I'm not getting the free ride. Let's see how this goes. Easy, but as it turns out, I'm not the only one relatively new to RT today.
This is my second trip in 20 years.
Are you excited?
Oh yeah, I'm excited.
Regional Transit says the majority of Golden One Center attendees taking light rail are using the system for the first time. But on board, Barbara Moore and Steve Head tell me they've now taken RT 7 times to get to the arena. Is this the best way to get to the Golden One Center in your view?
Hands down. No question. Safe ride. Security's here. Lots of fans on the light rail. We get down there. Don't deal with parking. Don't pay for parking.
Any problems with security, cleanliness, anything like that?
I've lived in a number of places around the world. This is okay.
Fair enough. We are in downtown, getting very, very close. You still happy with the RT experience?
Excellent experience, although I'm waiting for some green beer.
You and me both.
Yes.
It's a little bit early, but I guess it's only St. Patrick's Day once a year.
Yes, exactly.
All right, this was a success. We are here at 7th and Capitol, heading toward the arena. A lot of the people on board got off with us. Not everyone decided to take RT, but it sounds like a little advanced planning helped people avoid headaches getting downtown. These Ducks fans used the Sac Park site to reserve parking.
It's cold and rainy in Eugene.
Yeah, it's raining in Eugene, so we're glad to be here, and we're counting on the Ducks to deliver today.
So Sacramento's making a believer out of you. You gonna move
It
down
is.
here?
You understand why so many people like to live here. Yeah.
Since I don't have tickets and do have to work today, I'm going to get back on RT. But I have to say, it is pretty cool to see all these fans from all over the country coming into Sacramento. Such a beautiful day. It's going to be a great day of basketball, and I am jealous. In downtown Sacramento, Gabrielle Carroll, ABC 10 News.
As you can see, that was a great clip. I mean, that's what we all work really hard for, honestly, to bring new riders and people take transit that maybe haven't done it in years or are brand new riders. And to help riders navigate the light rail system, RT had guards, transit agents, officers, and employees staffing key light rail stations and onboard trains, and that we provided customer assistance for that weekend. What was really interesting about both Friday and Sunday is that not only did we have a lot of out-of-town people as expected, we actually, as you saw in this clip, had a lot of new riders that live in the Sacramento region. So it was just a whole new experience for us to help people who hadn't been on the system before. In addition, RT's marketing team prepared and delivered how to ride materials to all the area hotels and made sure that they distributed them to their guests so they knew how to ride RT downtown, where to park, let them know it was free on Friday. And that really, really resulted in some great efforts and ridership, as you can see in that clip. So I just want to thank you for that. And next, I would like to invite Sac City College student Adam Wong up to the podium to talk a little bit about his designated driver map project that was featured on several news sites that aims to prevent drunk driving by showing all the locations downtown where alcohol is served and their proximity to light rail stations. Welcome, Adam.
Good evening, Adam. Thanks for coming out this evening.
Thank you, Andy. Good evening, board. Good evening, everybody else. And hi, Steve. Me and Steve, we worked together at City Council when I was an intern a couple years ago. So I made this transit-friendly drinking map up here. And I made this in response to drunk driving and more or less like distracted driving in general around the area, and also to promote transit use in Sacramento. At first, I did only make it in the downtown area and only with light rail routes. So it used to only be in this downtown region right here. And that was like the initial part that I released it on Reddit, Facebook, and other outlets as well. And it got a lot of support. As you can see, it just crossed the 4,000 view threshold today, which is really awesome. And I actually made it for the whole light rail route now. So I had not only you have options in downtown, you have a decent amount of options at Folsom, it looks like. You have some off Hazel, you have some in Rancho Cordova, and even some in the North Blue Line and the South Blue Line as well. And very recently, I also just added these downtown bus routes as well. They will eventually have drinking spots as well, but the main reason I did that was to show people that you can also take the bus to downtown. Revolutionary idea, I know, but yeah, so this is pretty much the map right now. Let me get back to the microphone, yes. And I made it a focus in downtown, and with every stop or every drinking stop being at the most half a mile from a light rail station, which isn't really a far walk at all, in my opinion. I think it translates to 4 or 5 blocks. But after the expanded coverage of this map, I did make it bigger. There was no precedent for this map, which is also another reason that I made it, because we only have a transit option on Google that you can use, but it's heavily oversaturated in the downtown area because it shows commuter buses, buses from different agencies. So it really is like a big mess when you try and see what bus routes are on some of the downtown streets. So I decided to make this map for a little clarity as well. From my personal experience, transit in Sacramento has been an afterthought for some of my friends, but I really enjoy RT. It's safe, it's clean, it's a viable option for myself. I'm close to a couple of bus stops and not really that far from the 4th Ave Wayne Holkert station. I made this to spread transit awareness about transit Sacramento, and hopefully to get some of my friends riding the transit system as well, because I know that some of them, they don't have the option to take the bus to downtown, and maybe the bus route's too far or something like that, or they're not even aware that there is a weekend bus route close to them. So after learning that there was no option for this map, I decided to become more of an advocate for public transportation in general. I'm also in the Ride Downtown 916 advocation group. I love my city, and I do want to see it grow stronger as a community. The map doesn't fully achieve this goal right away, but I believe it is a step in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Great, Adam.
Adam, I have to question your math because about 300 of those hits were from me.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming out, Adam. Thanks for the great work in the community.
Andy?
Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you. Director Harris?
So I'd like to thank you also.
Yeah. If you have any questions or comments, definitely you can.
So I don't know, maybe Tim would like to comment, but there was a Rail and Brews event that was really a tremendous amount of fun. Mm-hmm. And it's actually pretty easy to get to some great breweries, some great Sacramento craft breweries, mm-hmm. by taking light rail.
Yes.
So we gave it a try, and it worked out really well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, I was actually surprised while making the map of how many just drinking options there were close to public transportation around here, and especially some breweries. I mean, like Track 7 is one of the most popular breweries in Sacramento right now, if not growing in the country, and that's right next to the City College Light Rail Station. It's not really that far of a walk at all. I think that's wonderful.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Great
Adam.
job, Adam. Thank you.
Okay, finally, Brent.
Yeah, thanks. So, good evening, Chair Moran and members of the board. So, kind of going on to that, stepping in the right direction, let's look at the financials.
You got all the finance stops along the light rail lines, do you?
Yeah, we should. gonna have to work with them. This is really gonna be tough after these good presentations, but I'm gonna kind of go quickly through this. Yeah. All right, let me go real quick. So 13.3 revenues came in for February. Expenses 13.2. We had a surplus of about 100,000, a little over 100,000. When you compare that to a budget to actual standpoint, we're a little light on the revenues, but our expenses came in under budget about 200,000. And I don't know if you recall, last month we had this situation where expenses for salaries and fringes were higher than budget, and that was because of those 2 holidays this month. And we said that was just a one-time kind of anomaly that we were seeing. Well, as you can see, that's where we think that was the case, because now we were able to save $268,000 in that category, which really helped us from a budget variance. Some other topics I want to talk about is the fair revenue category. You'll see we exceeded the budget by $160,000. That was actually due to a cash receipt that we received from Sac State. We have an agreement with Sac State students where they pay part of their tuition goes towards the transit pass. And then annually, Sac State pays us based on the number of riders times 50% of the single ride fare. Well, what we found in 2016 is that ridership grew tremendously. And that led to some concerns about the billing. And what we did is we worked on an issue where the billing amount that we had was about $350,000 higher than what they had expected, and that created a collectability issue. So we weren't able to prove that amount was due to RT until this point in this year. And so once we were able to get through that hurdle with Sac State and show that that was a valid receivable and the collectability issues went away, that's when it became recognizable revenue. So without that, we would have actually had a bad month for fair revenues, but with that, you can see we exceeded revenues. The next thing I want to talk about is the state and local revenues. I think at the last board meeting I had talked about the STA drop in revenues that we were predicting, and that came in at about an annual basis. We lost about $770,000 of STA revenues. And at the same time we were losing STA revenues, we know that LTF revenues have actually been on the rise. This is our sales taxes. And you'll see when you look at the original allocations RT received, they had about 2 or 3% growth, and we're actually seeing closer to 5%, 5 to 6% growth. So we went back, worked with the county staff, and we were able to show them with the BOE results that actually sales tax is coming in a lot better, and they were actually able to up that estimate. And so now we're looking at a 4.5% growth, and that was able to offset that STA loss.
Brent, I just want to interrupt for 1 second.
Sure.
When Brent talked about STA fund, we lost 700,000. That is based on state diesel sales tax.
Correct.
And unfortunately, the SB1, when they said they gave us whatever the transit, 600 million, whatever for the whole year for the entire state, that majority of those funds are based on the diesel sales tax again, which is not stable. So that's why SB1 is kind of very weak in terms of the transit funding.
Yeah, and maybe to follow up on what Henry said, we've actually seen, if you look at the history, the last 3 years, the amount of STA money we have been getting has been going down every year because the cost of diesel has been kind of fluctuating, and so we've been losing in that. So to get that bump in LTF, that really helped us this month and will help us for the end of the year. The next topic I want to talk about is federal revenues. As you can see, we're on target from a budget to actual standpoint. However, on March 2nd, we actually received word that we're going to receive about $500,000 less annually that was allocated to the region. RT gets a proportional share. It's a formula share, and the portion that we're going to receive is a little bit less. So next month, you'll see actually a budget variance in that category. So we're kind of keeping an eye on that too. So even though we have this surplus of $2.2 million, we know some of that's going to get absorbed next month with that federal loss of revenues. And as usual, federal revenues continue to be an area that we want to keep monitoring. And then I think I've hit everything except this last category, which is supplies. You'll see a negative variance of about $146,000. That's because we've actually been using more and more spare parts for our light rail vehicles. As you know, they're aging, and we're actually starting to see that impact on our financials now. We buy parts and inventory, and as they're taken out of inventory and put on the vehicles as it's being used, and as vehicles are breaking down. So we're really keeping an eye on that, and that's something we want to just keep mentioning. It's an area of concern for RT in the future. So I'm going to then just jump ahead. We talked about fair revenues. The slide here really just shows we've exceeded budget, and compared to last year, we've exceeded last year by about $300,000, which is great. Again, a lot of that was from the Sac State revenues, the one-time revenues that we received. The next slide is our fare box recovery ratio. As you can see, we're above our budget at 22%. Probably a little bit high. Typically, we're around 21, so 22% is a great number to be at right now. And then the last area is this ridership. This continues to be kind of our Achilles heel here, and we're not just looking at it, but actually Moody's, when we went through our rating presentation, that was an area that they said, look, there's two areas we want to see improvement at RT. It's ridership, and they said we realize this is something that all transit agencies are facing, but in particular, to your credit, you need to really work on your ridership, and you need to work on your cash liquidity. We have 23 days cash reserve on hand. They would like to see 60 days. So those are the two areas that we're going to really start focusing on. And by building that reserve, that's what we're doing. And that concludes my presentation.
Great. Thanks, Brent. Any questions for Brent?
Yeah, just one quick question.
Director Hanson?
I'm trying to remember, when we did the fiscal policies with Doug, didn't we set a reserve goal?
Yes.
What is our reserve goal again?
That's a great question. I'm going to let David, he's going to be talking, so I don't steal his thunder because he hasn't had a chance to speak. But it is, I think we had it as a goal.
You're stealing his thunder now.
All right. Yeah, I'll let him talk. Thanks. You got it. All right, David.
I tell you, between Brent and Henry, I don't think there's going to be anything left for me to say during the budget presentation. Why is this so high, Brent? Anyway.
The promotion is gone.
Anyway, the policy does state that at minimum 30 days, a maximum 45 days. However, we looked into it with the GFOA, the Government Finance Officers Association, and they're recommending for best practices 2 months or 60 days.
Yeah. So that's something that I think would be good to revisit. Especially if it'll help get us a better credit rating and lower interest rates on future bonds.
Right. And that's actually something we're really excited about. When we had actually been meeting with Moody's, it's been about 3 or 4 times prior to them announcing the rate change. And so, like Henry said, they used 7 months of data. They didn't actually take into account the STA money that's coming. So we're kind of hoping for maybe a double bump when the actual financial results come out and more STA money comes. So
don't get greedy.
I know. I said we're hoping.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks, Brent. Okay, I believe that concludes General Manager's report items. Okay, next item, please.
Next item, new business, item number 11, resolution authorizing staff to release the Sacramento Regional Transit District preliminary fiscal year 2018 operating and capital budgets and set notice of a public hearing for May 8, 2017, presented by David Goldman.
All right, thank you, Cindy. Good evening, David.
Good evening. We're getting the presentation up and running.
Okay.
Cuba phone.
Yeah, right there. Secure. Well, good evening, Chairman, Board, David Goldman, Management and Budget Director. So to go over the highlights, which were, just to really reiterate the main purpose of these highlights is just to talk about how we were able to lower the budget without changing our service levels or our fare structure. These are our operating revenues. As you can see, the 2018 budget is proposed to be $160.9 million, which is down from $162.5 million in 17. 25% of our revenues come from state sales tax. Another 25% comes from the local sales tax, Measure A. 20% comes from fares, and another 20% comes from federal revenues, which are decreasing due to one-time, time-limited revenues that we had budgeted for 17, but they're going down by about $2.2 million in 18, and the remaining revenues are about 10%. This graph shows you in green 17 and in red 18, it shows you the percent changes per each one of our revenue categories. You can see that our largest revenue categories are going up about 4% or 4.4%, depending on if it's local sales tax or state sales tax, and that's based on allocations. The other categories, we have the federal ones moving down because of the one-time revenues. Our fair revenues are pretty much staying flat. Our STA money is going down by about 10% because of the trend that Brent had talked about before, and this does not include any allocations from SB1, which we'll be getting later on. And the other categories are moving as shown. Operating expenses, almost 70% of our operating expenses go to pay for our workers' salary and benefits, and the remaining categories, purchase transportation, professional services, supplies, and so on, make up the other 30%. This is a breakdown of our personnel by function. 87% of our personnel work in the operating department, such as bus, light rail, maintenance, planning, and so on. Only about 13%.
Just wanted to share your industry-wide. This breakdown is about 80-20, but in our case, we're much better than the industry ratio.
And the operating expenses, each category of operating expenses is moving per the percentages shown on the screen. Our largest category, like I mentioned before, is salaries and benefits. That's only going up by 1.8% or $2 million, which is really keeping our cost in line for the salary and benefits. The other costs, such as purchase transportation, that's going down by about 24% due to our partnership with Paratransit that Henry mentioned before. Professional services is going down by about 13%. Due to the fact that we brought security services in-house, and the other categories are moving as shown. Now, I'd like to touch upon our reserves line of credit because that question did come up a little earlier. The chart on the left, it might be a little hard to see, but basically the blue bars represent our reserves, our general operating reserves, where the red bars shown as negative numbers, that represents our line of credit. And you can see that in 2013, the second column from the left, that was our peak in the last 5 years for reserves. And you can see a trend that as the reserves get drawn down in 14 and 15 and so on, the amount that's needed for the line of credit goes up to where it is now, about $29 million. And the cost related to this line of credit are about $350,000 per year. Now, the reserve policy that we talked about before requires us to address this situation with the board. Now, the bottom chart shows the best practices number that I talked about before, which is 60 days reserve for operating. That's about $26.4 million. Our current operating reserve is only $3.2 million, and that's a shortfall of $23 million. In addition, there are 3 other reserves. One of them is self-insurance. We're about $2 million short with that. Our capital reserve is really a reserve for replacement. That'll be something that's under development and that we'll bring to the board at a future date. But the priority really is to get the operating reserve back to where it should be. And as Brent had mentioned before, once we do that, not only will we not have to spend $350,000 in banking fees, because we can do a lot of other things with that $350,000, but we would have a better credit rating and we would be more financially stable. This goes over the capital additions that are in the budget. It's about $195 million that's proposed for 18. The vast majority of that, 99% of that, is for the downtown riverfront streetcar, and the vast majority of that money is federal. That's proposed to come from new starts. So to go over the schedule, tonight is the release of
Just on that one, because it's
back.
very important.
Sure.
The rest of the money that's not federal is coming from state government and then the 2 cities.
Yes.
Yeah, just it is not RT money.
It is not RT money.
Important that you say that every time.
Every time. It is not RT money. Okay. I'll remember that.
But some of those funds will pay RT staff who do work on capital projects. So
correct.
We will be sustaining some of our staff through that project, right, Henry? Okay. So it's somewhat a benefit.
Absolutely. So the final slide is the budget schedule. Tonight is the release of the preliminary 2018 operating and capital budgets. There's a 60-day mandatory public review. It begins today. On May 8th, it's scheduled for the public hearing. And on June 12th, That'll be the meeting for the adoption of the operating and capital budget to the board. So with that concludes the presentation.
Great. Thank you, David. So any questions for David? This is just certainly the preliminary introduction here, so we'll get other chances to pick through this. So just encourage everybody to look through it and see what you like and don't like. So.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have a request to speak on this item. Jeffrey Tartagia. Good evening, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey Tartagia, and as you rightly point out on some of the expenditures through there and some of the things for the streetcar, it is most helpful if some of them get broken out as more line items. And Henry, as per Transit 101, there is a number of line items that I think would be much more suggested to be for the public. I have brought to Brett's attention that I believe the bus shuttle system service, because this is an item that, as we have problems with the light rail, is ongoing and increasing. So an item that I think needs to be delineated as an expense. You have records of it for dealing with happen in Folsom, as well as some others, so you should be able to recognize that that's an expense that's been going on the last year or two. And I don't find a way that you see that in what category and where it's at. And I just bring that up because right now Henry is looking for, I believe, another 91 buses to replace. And because of the shuttle, also recognize that I think there is a better need of buses because of that need for bus shuttle as we contemplate our light rail service and its end-of-life system. That's what I want to bring to your attention, and hope that when in the budget that those can be line itemed out much better to see visibly in the budget. This is preliminary, but those are things that I think you should know and the public needs to know.
Thank you, Jeffrey. So that's it on speaker requests. So Director Natoli?
Yeah, just a quick question for staff on page 5 of 8. I circled a couple of quick items. I just want to be sure the reference was under professional services, where we talk about the substantial decrease. We cite two things there: anticipated cost reductions, and it says with our ADA paratransit contract by bringing security services in-house. That's that's two different things, right?
Yeah, those are two different things, correct.
That's not how it reads, though. That's
sorry.
why I pointed out. So
yeah, it's two different things, absolutely, okay. Yeah.
And while you're on that page, though, I guess the question I wanted to ask too was under other. It says that you anticipate increases in costs, including property taxes. What portion of property taxes that RT pays? What is?
Well, it's more the assessments than the property taxes. It's just really due to trends. We unfortunately did not put enough money in the budget for the current year, and we're just bringing it. We're kind of right-sizing it to the proper amount for the.
So you're talking about assessments for?
Just various property assessments that are on those properties. I can.
Okay, so but it's not property taxes.
It's not property taxes themselves, but it's the special assessments and other types of things.
For example, Florin, Road, Pipit, they doubled the assessment from 13,000 to 26,000.
Okay.
So those type of small increase add up.
So your property-based either improvement districts and/or similar is what you're talking about there. But when I saw property taxes, it kind of threw me. I wasn't.
Yeah, that's just the name of the category. I don't know.
Because we don't pay property taxes on properties that we own for the most part. Is that right? We do not.
You're right.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Thanks.
Great. Thanks. Any other questions? Okay, entertain a motion to, moved by Director Hansen, seconded by Director Harris. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions?
Motion carries at 86 votes.
All right, thank you, everyone. Next item, please.
Next item is item number 12, the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority meeting of March 24th. In your package, you have a written summary. If Director Natoli has anything to add.
I would just add that was the first one I attended in a very long time, and I think that they were probably glad that Director Hume is there more often than I. We had, as you'll note in the minutes, well over an hour discussion about single source contracting for advertising and other things. Ultimately, we And there were a couple other new board members that had been sworn in from colleagues on boards of supervisors, but it was I think an interesting discussion. I think staff, they were prepared, but I think yet not so much for the discussion that ensued. But anyway, I assured them that Director Hume would be very regular in his attendance as he is, and that they wouldn't have to put up with me at every other meeting. So anyway.
Thanks,
yeah,
Don.
Thanks.
All right, next item.
Next item is the closed session, unless any other directors have anything to report.
Anything to report out before we adjourn to closed session? All right.
I'll just read the closed session items. Conference with real estate negotiator pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.8 on first property 65th Street and Folsom Boulevard, second property Power Inn Road, and third property Royal Oaks. And I understand that we will have a report out from closed session.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, adjourn to closed session.
Thanks for your nice letter. I'll give you a call. We'll go together.